Bloom and Adams.
Venice, yeah, Bloom, and Seneca.
Okay.
All 4 townships have meetings tonight. The second Monday of the month, so it's, I guess, no matter what we pick, we're
All right. Well,
something maybe we keep an eye on that. But right now we're ready to go.
so we've got the flag flying. I just turned to 7 o'clock. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll call this meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Commissioner Schuff, would you handle the prayer tonight, please?
Absolutely. Thank you. If you would, bow your heads. Dear Father, we ask for your guidance, your patience as we discuss safety matters facing our county. Please help us to guide us in the right direction to work together for the betterment of our community and our citizen safety. This is very important to all of us, all corners of the county. Have us do your will and know that we want to see the best for our citizens. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Nikki, roll call, please.
I don't think she made it in yet. So I'm
Okay,
gonna do that.
roll call.
Commissioner Kirschner,
I am here.
Commissioner Paradiso,
You can raise your hand, Tony.
Commissioner Schuff.
Here.
Well, we
Okay.
have a bet. Who's going to be on mute first? I guess I lost that one.
Yeah, you sure did.
We lost that during roll call.
So we're going to, we talked last time about putting together a mission statement that we would read at each of these meetings as it relates to emergency medical services. So that mission statement is, and it is subject to change if anyone would like their input, but we kind of broke it down to say, and this is with Ken's help and with Jimmy's help. The primary mission statement of Seneca County EMS is to provide a professional EMS service at the most reasonable cost to our citizens. Our goal is to respond to all 911 EMS calls for service within 10 minutes in all areas covered by Seneca County EMS. It's short, simple, but I do think that it summarizes what our goal is here as a group. Anybody, and I know this is always tough, but anybody have any thoughts about that? Any input? Anybody want to wordsmith it in any way? Okay. So that is kind of what the premise from which we are working. And we're going to go from there. Now, what we're going to do here is a little bit different on the agenda. We're going to do the financial information first, and then give all the members of the district boards an opportunity to speak to that. So, Stacy, if you would, can you get the certified revenues up for us?
Yep. Let's see. All right, got the right one.
Sit
Okay.
there, look at me, trying to block the space, but.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. So, just as a reminder, the last meeting, there was some discrepancy between what the districts were showing in their amounts and their balances and what Julie had. And Julie was kind enough to join us this evening. I know she worked hard putting this together, and I want to tell her I appreciate that. But this was one of our goals here so that everybody was on the same page when it came to talking about totals, because this is going to be key as we go down the road here, trying to decide what we're going to spend where. So Stacy, with that, I'll let you go.
Sure. And I don't know if Julie wants to discuss anything. AVR hadn't submitted 2021 yet, so I used 2020 numbers that I got from the auditor mid-year in 2020. So you'll see that in yellow. So those are not current numbers. But the other numbers have been certified by Budget Commission as what they requested. And I also asked her today for Adams, Pleasant, and I talked to Sandusky County and got their certified revenue for 2021.
This meeting ID does not exist. Please re-enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
Somebody's on, not on mute.
Yeah, I think Julie is trying to get in. I see her name come up.
Yeah, Julie, I think you're already in the meeting. Can you?
Okay,
Oh, I hear you.
okay, good. Stacy, I just need to clarify the ABR ambulance, their beginning balance is actually 154,186.48.
For AVR
Ambulance, yeah.
beginning balance, what was it?
$154,186.48.
Okay, that was their carryover.
That's their beginning balance. And that was as of 1/1/20 because 21 is not available.
Okay,
The taxes are $98.88. I'm sorry, $98,088. So then their total revenue on their certificate from last year
okay,
was $252,274.48. Yep, you got it.
okay.
Okay.
So just to be clear, everybody else's revenue other than AVR is as of 1/1/21.
That is correct.
Okay.
And Commissioner Perdiso asked me to put down at the bottom what the county's normal contribution is, which is the 320, and then billing is about 300,000. And he wanted me to note that the county this year for 2021 has put in additional 300,000 to get the EMS started. So.
Okay. So we've got some number of things to talk about, but at this point, and I know that there are some township meetings and maybe people aren't here and that's too bad, but let's talk, let's have some input from the different ambulance districts that are represented. So again, in alphabetical order, I will start with AVR. Anyone out there representing AVR tonight?
This is Lynn Love from AVR EMS.
Yes.
I didn't
Yes.
catch your question.
The question is, looking at the numbers,
Yes, sir.
somebody needs to go on mute if they can. Looking at the numbers, do those numbers make sense? This is what the auditor has in your case as of I think 12/31/20 or 12/31/19 or 1/1/20. Do those numbers make sense to you?
Well, I do apologize that we do not have our current numbers turned into you. I will work on that.
Okay. All right. Bascom, anyone from Bascom represented? I'm sure there are.
This is Jim Klaus.
Yes, Jim.
The numbers look correct that you have up there for us
Okay.
as of right now.
All right, good. We're just all trying to get into sync here. Bloom, anyone able to make it from Bloom? That's one of the meetings tonight, I know. JLB, Jackson Liberty, Bettsville.
Yeah, this is Scott Harrison. The numbers look correct as of right now as far as revenue we have and what we
Okay,
have in the
good.
bank.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. All right, how about Nurigo? Nurigo, Big Spring, Seneca.
Hello. So yeah, the numbers do look correct. Just want to note that $177,000 of that was from a donation from a trust fund, which is non-tax. So if you take that from that 344, it's actually 167,353.
Very good. Thank you for that information.
No problem.
Appreciate it. So as we go forward, we need to think about if we're able to combine some districts and we're able to add personnel and possibly another location to make it better for everyone, not in everybody's case, but in some cases, how much of the carryover and or the taxes are we willing to contribute to a more cohesive ambulance district in your particular areas? Not asking you for any answers tonight. I'm just asking to have that discussion. You know, we, as I say, Tony Paradiso had mentioned and Stacy mentioned that the county has thrown in another 300,000 this year to try to make this thing work. So the question is, you know, what can we expect from some of the other ones to try to get this thing moving, forward? So we want to get into at this time too. Any other comments that anyone would like to make? Am I echoing here, Stacy?
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm not sure why, because okay.
I think I fixed it, Commissioner. We just a reminder to everyone: if you're not speaking, try to keep your line muted, or we're going to have some echoing issues. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. So we've got a few other things to cover, but at this point in time, again, we wanted to listen more than we wanted to talk. So if there are some comments from any of the ambulance districts, please speak up now. We've had a month to think all this stuff over and to see if you have any questions or concerns or, you know, which direction you think we ought to go.
I see Bob's got his hand up.
Yes, Mike.
Yes, Steve.
This is Steve Nader.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you have a revenue there. I think it'd be good to know what our expenditures are as well. And I can give you the information of 2020. Our expenditures for 2020 was 138,002. So at least in the year 2020, we actually spent more money than we brought in.
Okay. And the reason for that is, Steve? I mean, is this a one-time thing or is that typical?
The majority of, almost all of it, nope, most years we brought in more than we spent. We signed a contract with Bascom last year, and kind of for payment of past service that they gave us, we gave them $30,000 when we signed it. And we actually spent $32,000 more than we brought in. So we were close. We were actually, without that $30,000, we were close to spending the same. But right now, we're pretty much still spending the revenue that we bring in.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Mike, this is Tony.
Yes. Everyone.
So what I'm taking out of this slide is just a couple things right now. I think we all want to strive to be as efficient as we can without raising taxes, with using the resources that we all have. We all have millage, we all have levies. The commissioners are putting money in. So it's very obvious that everyone is contributing dollars to some sort of EMS service. So this kind of gives us an idea, a picture that on column E, it looks to me as if there's about $1.7 million of revenue that is currently generated throughout the county for EMS, counting the commissioners on an annual basis. Column C illustrates to me that there's $1.3 million in reserves or in cash among all the districts. Okay. And as we continue to talk about going possible merging of a couple districts or really the whole macro discussion of EMS, I just think this is a good starting point where all the districts, the auditor, everyone can agree that, this is kind of where we're at as of today. We can move down the agenda, but I think that's how I'm looking at it, Mike, right now. The 300,000 in line 22 is the amount of money the commissioners put aside to, in effect, hire up to 4 full-time people. So we would front end load that money. We've committed that in our budget. We set that aside. Our hope is that we can hire 4 good people and that everybody above line 22, if needed, could access that person for a shift or 2 per day, per week, per month. And we've had those discussions. I think Steve makes a point. Just because you look at column E, Steve Nader makes a point, and we see what they take in. We're not insinuating that you have all that money, that you're not spending that money or a good portion of it. So I think we need to make that statement, but it causes all of us, including the county, to reassess how we're spending our money and to see if there are better ways to do it or if what we're doing makes some sense. So that's how I look at this. We finally have a baseline where we can start. I mean, any additional money that we would need we don't know where that would come from. So, to me, that's how I look at this slide.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Any other thoughts out there amongst any of the other ambulance districts?
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
I'm Bob Farrell from Republic EMS.
Yes, Bob.
I have one question for you and then one for Julie. What did you want our districts to do to see? You said something about how much of the taxes and what else that you wanted us to see if we could give you?
Well, in the bigger picture plan, Bob, and in your case, for example, we may need to establish a site that would be a 24/7 site that we would be able to house some EMTs. So the question is, are we able to use any of the carryover money for that? Would you be willing to do that if you were joint with someone else? Again, we're not answering these questions tonight. It's just kind of a big picture question so that we can hopefully resolve the EMS situation across the county and come up with a template that works for all ambulance districts in the future. So all we're asking is, if we had to build a facility, would you be willing to use some of the carryover money to assist with that? Again, not an answer for tonight, but just something to discuss.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I got that for I could take it to our board, because I don't think any of our board members are on there right now.
Right.
But I do have a question for Julie, if she's still on. And that would be the tax money that is showing is that what we're going to be getting this year? Or have we already gotten that?
That's your estimated revenue for 2021.
Okay, so that's what we'll get when you start giving us our tax money for it that time then.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other input from the ambulance districts? We're here and ready to listen. Okay. Yes. Oh.
Is
Jimmy,
there
we have
anyone
somebody.
on from Adams, Pleasant, or Green Springs? Okay.
Yeah, I thought, yeah. Okay, so Stacy, let's go with the cost per full-time equivalent here and have that discussion.
All right, let me get that document. Where to go? Yeah, EMS. Well, let me get it.
You know, everybody's staring at us.
I know. Oh, there it is.
No pressure.
Yeah, I thought I had it in a PDF and I had it in a Word document. All right. Okay. Share screen. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. These were the figures that we had brought up, I think, at our second meeting.
Yes.
Which basically breaks it down to a cost per unit per hour. Now, $640,000 is what it costs for squad per year. So this shows per unit. So divide that in half, obviously, because it takes at least 2 people.
So the starting point is that we have basically, in round figures, $36.50 per hour for a individual on an hourly basis. So the question is, are you comfortable with that number? If that number is charged to supplement your volunteer corps?
I was wondering if this is Lynn Love from ABR. Is there any way that
Yeah.
you could email these to us? So
Sure.
we actually have a evening meeting tomorrow evening.
Sure.
Thank you.
Stacy, you've got all the email addresses for everyone on the call?
I think Nikki does. Yeah, I got Lynn's.
Okay.
I'll make sure Lynn
Okay.
gets it.
Okay. I think we can make sure, Jimmy, we can make sure that everybody gets a copy of all the docs that are up here tonight.
Yeah, and also, if you haven't been receiving emails from us regarding these meetings, but you're in here right now and you want to receive those, you can go to the chat and you can go ahead and type your email address in there. You could also just email me if you don't want to do that. You can, and if you're on the phone line, you can email me at jflint, so that's JFLINT at SenecaCountyOhio.gov if you're interested in receiving emails about these meetings and then those documents as well.
And I'll just add to that, not to distract from this slide so people can look at this. But Mayor Harrison and Steve Nader and Tim, we don't have your emails. We sent certified letters out to all the districts. And we still have a few emails we're trying to accumulate so that we can do a blast, not only to the district fiscal officer, clerk, but also to all the board members, because that's really what this meeting is. It's for us board members, for you board members and us commissioners to kind of have these high level talks. And so I will acknowledge that we probably, even as hard as we've tried, Stacy, for even to improve for this third meeting, we may still have a few more things we could do to try to help that. But we can't change the fact that 4 townships are meeting tonight. So there's always a representative that's supposed to be here that's, on those, or in those township meetings. So we'll work on that, try to close that gap a little bit. But back to this $36.50 an hour. I mean, the question Commissioner Kirschner has out there is, what do people think of that? What do you think?
Yes, Commissioner, this is Steve Nader.
Yes, please.
Okay, I guess I believe that your figures are accurate. When we started our joint ambulance districts, we based our tax, asking for the taxes based on paying the $3.50 an hour. So when we go from paying people $3.50 an hour to paying $36 an hour, it won't take long for us to deplete what carryover we do have and not have any money to continue this. I figured ours, now we are out of service probably more than most of them, roughly 50%. But if we tried to fill in all of our vacant slots with paid people, we would spend our $200,000 in a little less than 8 months. And I know that there's, not everybody's in the same situation as us, but that's our particular case.
Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent point, Steve. I'm glad you did the math on that. That's why, again, we're trying to come up with a template for countywide to find out exactly what kind of millage it's going to take to be certain that everyone is in service as much as possible, and whether or not it makes sense in some cases to combine districts in order to minimize that cost. So that's what we're trying to get to here eventually.
Yeah, and I think for now, everyone on the call, Steve, you and I have talked, and we will absolutely talk some more. I think for now, we're talking 4 people, full-time people, and that's maximum 40 hours a week times 4. What can we do now to help? I don't think, Steve, we're expecting to go from 50% in service up to 100, but as you look around, all of you, and you talk to your coordinators and analyze your out of service, anything anybody can do to be in service a little bit longer helps in a lot of ways. And I don't think we're encouraging everyone to deplete all their money, but for purposes of the next step in all our discussions, I think we're at the point, do we want to hire 2, 3, or 4 people? Our conversation is at 4. And if we hire 4, will the districts use them to help?
Well, Tony, I think
look at it like that at this stage in the process.
So, Tony, I think that taking Steve's math, which is good to talk about here because it's a good starting point.
Yep.
But he said that they would run out of money in 8 months. Okay. So that's 8/12. and we take it down to the common, it's 2/3. So it would be a push if you were in service 66% of the time, then the money that you have would be sufficient to get you to 66% of the time in service. So that's better than 50, right? So it's a step in the correct direction, is my point. Again, everybody, all the districts have different numbers to work with. But in this particular case, Steve, you've done the homework on this thing. So 8/12 gets us to 2/3. 2/3 gets us 66%, which is better than half. It's a good move. I mean, it's a positive direction. And if we could somehow coordinate it with other districts near you, that the third of the time that you're not in service is a third of the time they are in full service, that would make life a lot easier too from a scheduling standpoint, which I think is a pretty good segue into Ken talking about scheduling.
Yes, sir, I can do that. I think knowing right out of the gate that what we're going to need to cover, the only way to do that is with a logical schedule that makes sense. And I know I blew the lid off folks when I reminded them that we do have to do an ongoing schedule, which means January needs to be turned in December. February needs to be turned in January, and so on and so forth throughout. Sorry, I had a frog in my throat. And then forever, because in order to know who to schedule and where, we need to know what the needs are. But I think first and foremost, we need to make sure that our operational plan that we've all discussed and really have kind of just brushed aside is actually what we're going to be doing. If that's not the case, then we need to know what that is first. And if we're going to shoot for 2 squads or we're going to shoot for 4 squads, the expense is considerably different. And the number of personnel that are needed to man those stations are also different. But the schedule, as it applies to the way we need it, is we need to know about a month in advance where we need to schedule these folks so that we can put them where they're needed. And if we've only got a maximum of 4, which is what we're talking about, the most amount of squads we could keep in service with 4 people would be 4. But also we got to realize that we have enough volunteers out there right now that are keeping 4 squads in service now. So knowing where to put them is tantamount to success. And if we don't have a organized collective way of doing that, it's impossible to schedule or predict how many, where, when, and what level. Hope that makes sense.
So, Ken, tell us the steps that we need to take to get to 30 days advanced scheduling.
Well, we've taken those steps, utilizing some electronic software that we purchased into 4 or 5 years ago, and we've started putting electronic schedules together so that at a glance our dispatchers and our EMS administrators can take a look at those and know where the weaknesses are and where we need to put people. And whether we pull people from within a district like we do in, say, Bloom Scipio, for example, we have people from Bloomville working the Republic truck and vice versa, trying to stay as nimble and as in service as possible with as many people. But what we need to do is start thinking longer than a 5-day stretch and start looking at a 30-day window. So we need to know who we need where, and the only way to do that is with a full schedule that shows if you need a person, there's a blank on the schedule, and therefore I know I need to fill that. I have had a lot of discussions recently that basically want us to just fill 3 days and then they fill the rest, or 4 days, or whatever the case may be. Those are all good ideas, but it still ends with a 30-day advanced noticed schedule so that we know where the needs are and how to do it. The coordinators have all been, we've discussed this for, I don't know if it's 2 months or 3 months now that we've talked about doing schedules on a monthly basis as opposed to a weekly basis. But we need to get there because without that data, there's really no way to predict what we need and where.
So, I'll go back through again. Is everybody on board with this? And what comments do we have? Can we get there? And do we have buy-in?
My answer to that, if you're asking me, currently is no.
Okay. Districts, thoughts about it, please?
Yeah, this is Scott Harrison, JLB. We're talking to our volunteers that they have a hard time more in a week because of all their job commitments, all the things that change on them and family commitments and all that stuff. So it's very hard for them to get more than even 2 weeks advance notice of what they're going to do on volunteering. So it's very rough from our point of view to try to do that. I'm not sure about the other districts, but I noticed in our district, it seems very hard more than that. So that's my input.
Okay. Thanks, Scott. Anyone else?
Yeah, this is Kevin Reinhardt, Bascom Joint Ambulance District.
Yes, Kevin.
Our thoughts, I talked to our coordinator tonight and it's somewhat the same thing where it's hard for them to schedule ahead that long because some of them don't even know their schedules because of their different jobs. If we do go with that longer schedule, Ken, we're going to be out of service more. I don't know if we could, for now, for us, for Bascom, what would work is we'll tell you that we need, your county help these certain days. If we can tell you that a month in advance, and we'll have somebody there to help them out. But if that'll work or not, but I was hoping that would work, so we could still keep that same 3-day schedule we have right now, for now anyways. I don't know if that's a possibility or not.
It's something that we can look at and talk about, but we also have to remember the standard of care is what we're all masters to. So we have to pay attention to that. So knowing that we're going to be hiring brand new people, there is a possibility we're going to be putting a person who's a new hire in the seat next to a person who has 0 to no experience. So doing that is a very challenging struggle, and I'm not willing to do that. The standard of care is important, and that goes to the values below the mission statement. And we have to make sure we maintain our standard of care. And my intention moving forward with this plan was to increase our standard of care, not decrease it. So I'm amenable to anything that works, and some things just won't. And if we've already tried to, keep the standard of care where it is and say, well, we have an emergency use only situation with some of our EMRs that quickly turned into an everyday thing. So my medical director, who is supposed to be here this evening, has directed me to make sure that we do nothing more that will hurt or diminish our standard of care in any way. And I intend to keep that promise.
Okay, other
All right,
input?
yeah. This is Andy with Nurigal. I have our scheduler here that wants to give her input real quick.
Sure.
I think, putting out like a 2-month schedule for us, to actually say who's going to be on is really difficult, but I can tell you where we're going to need spots just because I know our weaknesses. I know like what days I'm always struggling for. So I have no problem telling Ken in March, like which days I need, but I have a problem putting actual people names, or like names in the schedule because everybody's schedules change. Their days switch back and forth, but I can give Ken what days I'm going to need help. That I have no problem with, but I have a problem with putting out a schedule out 60 days ahead of time because it's more work than I want to deal with. I'm a volunteer and I just don't have time to do it. So.
Okay. Thank you. Any other districts?
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Bob Farrell again.
Yeah.
We try to do a 30-day schedule over here. Right now, how we do it we give our coordinator our schedules by the 15th or the 20th of the month, and she tries to get it out to us by the 25th, 26th, something like that. And that's pretty much how, back in the day when I ran part-time for the city of Tiffin, before the Tiffin EMS went in with the fire department full-time, that's how we did it for the city of Tiffin, for the part-time employees that ran the squad for the city of Tiffin until I think it was 1997 when they went full-time into the fire department. I know some of the people that we have, they work at hospitals, and usually they get a 6-week schedule, but by the time their schedule is almost done, they're still waiting on their schedule from the hospital. So, you know, they might get their schedule a week before than what they know that they're going to be able to work. So like Christine said, we do have some days that we know we're a little shorthanded. So we could go what days, but exactly to try to get us to do a 60-day schedule ahead of time, I'm going to say you're probably going to get maybe a 40-day schedule ahead of time by the end of the month. But you'll have it by the end of the month. At the beginning of the month, you're only going to have maybe a 10-day schedule ahead of time. And that's pretty much about the best I think any of the districts could probably do.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Anyone else?
Hey, Mike,
Tony, yeah,
just
yeah, Jim, yeah,
Fox.
yeah, Jim.
We put in for one person for 40 hours a week. And we talked about we would like to have that same person all the time. That we could schedule that person and then our volunteers fill in around that person. So the person from the county would know when they will be working all the time, and then our part-timers that won't know their schedule sometimes until a week at a time can just fill in the other spots. The full-time person from the county is not working.
Okay.
You
Ken, your thoughts?
understand what I'm?
Yeah, I got you. I do. Yeah, Ken, your thoughts about that?
Stand by, get my video. No, I don't have a problem with that. I think Jim and Kevin and I discussed that on the phone, and I actually kind of like that idea. But one of the things that it kind of flies in the face of, if you will, is trying to build a system. So what we're doing is we're not building a long-term sustainable system. What we're doing is a la carte options to give everybody exactly what they want at an expense that I don't think any of us can tolerate. But I'd be great with having, and I'd like to do 48 hours in a week instead of 40. It just makes it easier for the way that EMS is scheduled. So if we ever do get to 24s, 48s kind of work pretty good. Ask anybody that's worked EMS, or we can do 4 12s one week, 3 12s the following. And Tony and I talked about that. But having one full-time person in Bascom, I think would work very well. I even have a person in mind for that position. Where the problem lies with that is I don't think we could offer that same exact thing to all 5 districts without being running the risk of having 5 full-time people on duty, nowhere near each other, and then the volunteer either not showing up or calling off or whatever happens. And I know that that's going to be a very rare instance, but I want to make sure that we are able to take advantage of the personnel we have on hand. Because once we start paying people, we can no longer use EMRs. And those are that kind of thing. That's why I'd asked Derek to be here to make sure we are following the ORC when we try to be compliant with this thing. But I think, Jim, I think that's a good point, and it will work very well in that particular case.
Now, Ken, if we work 4 12s one week and 3 12s the next, do they get overtime for that?
Yeah, yes, sir. Just like our Echo unit does now, we schedule in 8 hours a week of overtime, and that's a traditional EMS schedule. And then we also have, when you do things like that, you have to think ahead, like 3 weeks. Every third week, you're going to get an extra day off, or else you would end up with 32 hours in a pay period of overtime, and that starts to get expensive. And that's factored in when we start doing hourly rates and things like that.
So will we be charged overtime, or will it be just that same rate?
The flat rate of $36.50 incorporates that exact formula. That's how that works.
Okay.
Yeah, Jim.
And if we do this, we would, well, we'd want somebody that would work with our people, because if they won't work together, or there's a conflict all the time, you know, it's just not going to work out.
Right.
If we could kind of be in on who that person is to who we receive or get, that would be nice to be in.
Sure. I haven't interviewed yet, but I do have, after 8 weeks of having the job notification posted, we've had 6 applications, 5 for full-time and 1 for part-time. 1 paramedic and a couple of EMTs and a couple of advanced. And we're gonna post it again, and this time we're gonna take it national to Jobs, Indeed, and Monster.com, and all the major publications.
This is Lynn Love from ABR EMS.
Yes, please.
And I was just wondering, I didn't catch your whole conversation with Dr. Fitzpatrick and no longer using EMRs. Can you expound more on that for me, please?
Yes, ma'am. EMRs are to be utilized in primarily volunteer systems. And once we start having a full-time or paid person on the squad, and there's a question of whether we're already doing that, and that's yet to be determined, and I'm not asking too heavily. But once we have full-time people on the trucks, we won't be able to run those folks with EMRs. ORC 4765.30 explains what the minimum staffing level of a paid ambulance is.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Commissioner Paradiso, you want to talk about action items for next meeting?
Sure. I think as a recap of this discussion, maybe that'll take us into the next meeting. But Ken, we're all of us would be venturing into something that we haven't done before, and I think we need to plan the best we can and then basically battle test it. We won't know till we get a few people out there, and I think these ongoing meetings will help us reset and do the right thing and kind of work through that. But the purpose of this process is to try to, and by default, we're all going to try to work together a little bit more than we're doing now, but to just basically help the volunteer system who, and this is the best way we can do it. It's not perfect. But if we can get good qualified people out into these districts, I think that's positive. We won't know till how all that works till we try it a little bit, but I think we're having some good discussion. I would open up to, so I think next meeting, the commissioners we've instructed Ken to basically get aggressive with the search. At this point, we haven't hired anybody, right, Ken?
No, sir, we have not.
And I'm just talking out loud, if it's February 8th, it's going to be March 1st would be, I would assume, the earliest you can have somebody, maybe 4 to 6 weeks. You're probably not going to get all 4 at the same time. Maybe you will, maybe it'll be, I got 2 now and 2 more starting. So can you maybe explain how you feel that would happen?
Yes, sir. I have a couple that I believe are ready to go within a couple of weeks, discussing having to work notices and things like that. But we're going to have to do some pretty heavy training. We're going to have to do orientation. The 2 I want to hire immediately have 30 plus years in the system or in EMS. And I think they're going to tune in very easily, but with 5 different ambulances in districts, we're going to have to train individually on each one of those that we're going to be deploying them to, because they're that much different between each one. Plus the training of map training and also orientation to the individuals who they'll be running with. So at least if we hire them in the next 2 to 4 weeks, it'll take at least 2 to 4 more weeks of orientation and training to get them up to speed so that they understand our system protocols and then have an opportunity to meet their crews. And it depends on what we do with them. And that's something that we're trying to determine from meetings like this, is if we're going to deploy them individually or as crews. I grew up in a CRM system where we believe in crew resource management, and having crews is the superior way to provide high quality care. However, if we choose to do a different path, it's going to be learning on all of our parts. But I also want to make sure that everybody understands, and we're not reinventing the wheel here. EMS has been around for about 60 years. And our neighbor to the north, who is modeled after the Delaware County system, Seneca County EMS, has one of the most robust EMS systems and the most successful EMS systems in the Midwest. And we really need to take advantage of that, take a look at it. They're one of the very few CAS certified systems in the state of Ohio, one of 3 at last count. They're a very good model, and we need to pay attention to that. It's less than 20 minutes away from us.
Okay. Does anybody want to, Jim, I know you spoke. I think the first thing that I'd like to see on the next meeting is we probably will be rolling this out, right? We could very well have 1 or 2 people working 30 days from now. So Ken, I'd be interested in this call tightening up, how that's kind of working. And it sounds to me like it may be a little bit different in Bascom or New Riggle or, Bloom Scipio / Attica, Bettsville. So I think Commissioner Kirschner for next meeting, the March meeting, we have some high-level discussions going on, and I would like to just update everybody. We're not exactly sure how the Pleasant Adams Green Springs, how that's all going to work out, but we are in discussions with them. And I think this next month will shed some light on what direction that's all going to play out. I think that's good. I know Bloom and Scipio are talking to Attica Venice Reed about trying to get together and see how they can improve that whole system in the East. I think that's a good thing. Steve, Scott, I know you guys are doing what you can in Bettsville. You're working close with Bascom. So, if we can tighten some of that up, I think that'll help us as far as, the next steps go. I would like to jump ahead maybe conceptually, Commissioner, 1 or 2 months, and I don't know, but I would say as early as April, probably as late as May. I would like an in-person meeting where we can all get in a room. And maybe at that point, we start having a a more big picture discussion. But between now and then, I think if we can just kind of improve what we're doing, battle test it a little bit, I think that would be good. I'll yield to anyone on the call to see if they want to add some specifics to the March agenda.
This is Kevin Reinhardt again.
Yes, Kevin.
Hey, I did have one question to ask you earlier. Is that $36 an hour? Is that locked in, or is the county going to give some of that, help out with that a little bit? You guys talked about that earlier, a month ago or so. I don't know if that was a solid figure that we can all rely on to, figure out how much you can afford or not.
Well, I think the quick answer, and this is one commissioner speaking. The quick answer is that's our cost. And when I say our, I mean all of us on this call. That's our cost. As Tony had mentioned, as you saw on the sheet, we're advancing an additional $300,000 to that. And as I had kind of said earlier, it depends on the percentage of time that they are utilized. Remember, if we have them on, once the county puts them on the payroll, that's our nut. I mean, we've got to pay them for the entire year for their salary. So the more they get utilized, the better off everybody will be. And we need to kind of look at that. I'm not saying that we wouldn't subsidize that sum, depending on the percentage of usage. But I am saying at this point, that's the cost. Let's just see how it goes here. If we only utilize them 50% of the time, we're on the hook for what amounts to $72 an hour from a county standpoint. So, it's kind of like changing tires on a moving car, right? We're not sure exactly what the result's going to be. But we're hoping that we get high utilization from a percentage standpoint, and we're hoping that we'll be able to come up with enough money to help subsidize that. Our goal, as we stated in the mission statement, is just do the best job we can. So we're all in this together. We're all learning about it together. But the short answer is, I think at this point it's probably wise when you put a pencil to it to use the 3650.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm not opposed to subsidizing that. I agree with Commissioner Kirschner. So this is one of those cart before the horses, Mike, where if the districts knew what the cost was, and let's say the cost was less than $36.50, they may
I get it.
Utilize it. So we have that. So I would entertain some, let's see who's going to commit and what we can do, Ken, and use that $36.50. And if we see a lot of utilization and we decide to subsidize it, then that'll be more hours. Everybody, that will be a positive. We would do that. But I think we're committed to hiring 4 people, and until we start seeing them being utilized, it's kind of hard to price it.
I agree. Yeah, Commissioner Schuff, not necessarily about this topic, but what are your thoughts here about the discussion tonight?
Is he muted?
I see him unmuted.
I know he was having some problems with his microphone. Commissioner Schuff, Can you speak? If you're on the phone line, you'll have to hit *6 to unmute.
I can hear him talking next door.
I see him on the screen, and it doesn't show that he's muted, but obviously he can't get through. Okay. All right. So this is everyone on the call, a public meeting, and we may very well have people here who are not related to any of the ambulance districts, possibly some citizens. So Jimmy, you want to give them the instructions that we always give?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the time for public comment. Anyone who wants to come forward can do that. If you're on the computer or a mobile device, you can hit the unmute button there at the bottom left of your screen to come forward now. If you're on the phone lines, you'll need to hit *6 on your phone to unmute to come forward and speak. And you can go ahead and come forward now if you'd like to say anything.
Any questions are welcome by anyone out there.
Mr. Kirschner,
Yes.
Bob Farrow again.
Yeah, Bob, it's Mike, please. Yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering to know if the commissioners have ever thought about using 0.25% of the sales tax to give to the EMS system to run, to help pay for it. That's how Sandusky County does it. They have 0.25% of the sales tax that they get, and it is strictly for Sandusky County EMS. And I was wondering if Seneca County ever thought about doing something like that.
Bob, obviously a major portion of our income comes from sales tax, along with real estate tax and casino money and government funds. The short answer to your question is we have not had a discussion about designating any percentage of the sales tax directly to EMS. The discussions that we've had is how much can we afford from the general fund, a combination of all our sources of income that can be designated towards EMS. As we had said earlier, we had been contributing about $350,000 a year. We upped that to $650,000 for through 2021 to try to get this thing rolling. Now I know that our sales tax numbers are somewhere in the $600,000 to $800,000 a month range. So I mean, if you equate what sales tax Sandusky County receives to what percentage that would be of ours, it's somewhere about 8%. But it's not a specific designation of sales tax money. It's a specific designation of general fund money, all sources of money that come into the county. And look, we're not unwilling, if we could come up with a system that we feel accomplishes our mission statement and makes life easier for the volunteers and for all the districts, we are not unwilling to contribute more money to that. I don't want to be the guy to tell you we're going to fund it all, but I do want to be the guy to tell you that our priority, both Commissioner Schuff and Commissioner Paradiso and I have discussed it. Law enforcement and emergency management services are our top two items. There's a lot of other stuff out there that needs to be funded, obviously, but if we're going to sacrifice anywhere, we're going to stretch anywhere, it's going to be to make certain that our folks in the county get good ambulance service and get good law protection. So the answer to your question is no, we don't designate a percentage of sales tax, but we do designate a percentage of money from the general fund specifically to EMS. That's a good question, Bob. I appreciate you asking it. Derek, you want to add anything here? You want to give us the lawyer's version of what we ought to do?
Oh, thanks, Mike. No, I'm here if anybody has any questions. The best thing you can do if you have a legal question is shoot me an email, and that way I can do some research and be prepared and can get answers to everybody. If you have a specific question to your district, let me know. Or if you have a general question, shoot me an email and I will get you an answer as quickly as possible.
And I can tell you that's absolutely true. There's never been a time I've asked Derek a question that he hasn't responded in less than 24 hours.
Well, that's usually because you're asking me if I want another drink.
I don't think I'm allowed to do that, am I? Okay. Anything else from the general public? Again.
This is Lynn Love with ABR.
Yes.
And I do like the idea of having a in-person meeting.
Good. Well, you got to get your double shots, Lynn. You got to get the first one or the second one. You're just a kid. The rest of us, we're in line earlier than you are.
That's for sure.
I see that. Thank you, Lynn. Yes, I agree with you. this would be much better discussion if we could see everybody and read body language and all those kind of things. You're right. I see Commissioner Schuff is back in the queue.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Been having some technical difficulties here. I sent a message out to the group. Computers acting up, microphone's not working, camera's not working. But no, I guess I came into this meeting with the intent of listening to what our different EMS people had to say here. I came here for a point of listening, but I think it's good to have these conversations, to get it out there in the open. Nobody's making any deals back behind, that sort of thing. But I think when we can get together like this once a month and have these kinds of productive conversations, that's good. Taking some of what was said tonight, I think we're heading in the right direction here. Just we got some numbers out there tonight. It's going to take some time for everybody to digest, but I mean, at the end of the day, we're all public servants. We want to see the best possible safety services for Seneca County residents as possible. But that being said, we also want to utilize our dollars the best that we can. But like I said, I'm going into this with an open mind, and it was nice to hear the conversation today. Sorry about the technical difficulties on my end, but I think everybody wants the same thing here. It's just a matter of how do we get there and keep pressing forward.
Okay, well, I promised everyone that we'll try to keep it to an hour. We're about 5 minutes over that. That doesn't mean there can't be some more conversation, but at this point, I just want to tell you that, you know, if your hour's up, feel free to leave. If there's any other conversation, let me know.
Hey, Mike,
And-
I
yes,
only have
yes.
one action item kind of noted. Are we striving for 3 like today? I've basically got a new hire update at our next meeting.
Okay,
Probably
so
a scheduling update from Ken.
yes. Okay, does March the 8th work for everyone here? I guess I'll frame it a different way. Does anybody have a problem with March the 8th? Okay, hopefully we can get that'll also be the second Monday, Tony, as it turns out.
Yeah, looking at the county calendar, and if we did it on the second Tuesday, and there was a reason we didn't pick Tuesday, but when I look at the county calendar, it's blank on the second Tuesday of the month. So we might want to consider moving this meeting to a Tuesday. Then I think I don't see anybody else meeting.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
That is WSOS night and Fair Board night.
That's why we didn't do it. You're right. Okay. I knew there was a reason.
Okay, well, we may try to adjust the time, but if we do,
let's keep it for the next meeting.
Yeah, if we do, we will let everybody know in advance. Okay, having said that, God bless, everyone stay healthy, and have a good evening. Thanks all.
Good night.